Hey guys, so now I want to look at one more area that is close and dear to me, and that area is Standing Order number 28, which includes the investigation of crime, preparation and submission of files. So we'll go through the provisions in turn of Standing Order number 28. So the investigation of crime. Investigation is a process whereby information is systematically collected, collated, and analyzed to determine whether a prima facie case can be made out against the perpetrator or perpetrators. The investigator detailed to inquire into a crime must ensure that in gathering information relative to the crime, the undermentioned questions are answered, and those are: what crime has been committed, when and how it was committed, where was it committed, why was it committed, and who committed the crime. The investigation of a crime requires that the crime scene be visited. The first officer visiting the crime scene may not necessarily be the investigating officer. However, it shall be the duty of such officer visiting to conform to the guidelines, and those guidelines are: A. Self-protection, that is, ensure that he cannot be harmed by hidden objects or persons on the scene. B. Care for the injured, that is to say, where possible, provide assistance. C. Identifying the dimension of the crime scene. This depends on the nature of the crime scene, and the officer present is to look for signs which shall assist in determining the area to which protection should be given. Securing and protecting the crime scene. Prevent needless destruction of evidence by relatives, emergency medical personnel, media personnel, general public, and police personnel in order that the crime scene can be maintained in its original form. Identifying witnesses and suspects. Potential witnesses should be identified and their names and addresses recorded where possible. Information relating to suspects should also be recorded and an arrest made if possible. Maintaining control of the crime scene. In this endeavor, the officer should concentrate on the immediate surrounding areas of the crime scene and not attempt to extend it beyond human control and capacity. Establishing contact with base. Indicate arrival on the scene, observations made, and brief facts where it is practicable. Making notes. Record activities and observations for possible use at trial. Apprise the investigator. Apprise the investigator of the information you have received and observations made, and of any actions taken, if any. The investigating officer, where he is the first responder on the scene, shall follow the guidelines stipulated. He shall do the following: interview the first officer who visited the crime scene, visit the scene and make notes, notify internal specialists, for example, fingerprint, photography, and external agencies such as the District Medical Officer, Forensic Sciences Center, where the assistance is required. Secure any objects or articles that will render assistance to the investigations. Where applicable, a receipt should be given for articles or objects seized. Interview and record statement from witnesses. Employ all lawful means necessary for identification and detention of suspects. Police officers investigating a crime shall use these tools, aids, and external agencies where necessary for investigations. And the tools are: recording of declarations, medical certificates, death certificates, judges' rules, identification parades. The aids are: fingerprint photographs, identification parades, police armorer, and judges' rules. The external agencies would be the District Medical Officer, Forensic Science Agencies, Customs, and any other external agency tools or aids may be used as it becomes necessary owing to the particularity of the matter under investigation. The investigating officer, on completion of the investigation, shall submit the collated information, such as statements, reports, documents, and exhibits, with the covering report called the file, to the senior officer for directions. So I'm looking at one of the questions taken again from the Police Service Examination Board syllabus, and that question would be, which of the following is not an action that should be taken by a police officer who arrives first on a crime scene? And the options given are: A, take charge of the crime scene if you deem it not necessary to establish contact with base. B, determine the dimensions of the crime scene and maintain control. C, prevent access by all persons to maintain crime scene in its original form. And D, ensure that there is no potential for harm by hidden objects or persons on the scene. The question again: which of the following is not an action that should be taken by a police officer who arrives at the crime scene? And that would be: A, take charge of the crime scene if you deem it not necessary to establish contact with base. So clearly this is the incorrect option, and based on our readings, the officer, first responder, ought to establish contact with base. There is no option of whether or not he or she deems it necessary.